Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth, and I'll be taking you through this lesson. And specifically in this lesson, we will be looking at normalization and the first normal form. So the objectives of the lesson, we are going to cover the following: to define the purpose of normalization in database models, to define the role of the first normal form in the normalization process, to determine if an entity conforms to the rule of the first normal form, to convert an entity to first normal form if needed. So what is the purpose of the lesson? So think about storing your friends' phone numbers in 3 different places: your address book, your cell phone, and a sheet of paper that you have tapped on your to your refrigerator. It's a lot of work if a friend changes his or her phone number. Reason is you have to change it in your address book, you will change it in your cell phone, and then on the sheet of paper that you have tapped on the refrigerator. So what happens if data is stored in more than one place in a database? What if someone changes the information in one place and not the other? How do you know which information is correct? Redundancy like this causes unnecessary problems in a database. And basically, that is why we are learning about normalization. So normalization is a process that is used to eliminate these kinds of problems. Redundancy. One of your goals as a database designer is to store information in one place and in the best possible place. And if you follow the rules of normalization, you will achieve this. So we are looking at normalization, or why normalization is important is to ensure that we do not have inconsistencies in the databases that we would possibly be building. You store information in one place such that if you are making any amendments to that data, the amendments are reflected across the database so that we do not have, for instance, records of one person that are inconsistent, maybe in one entity or in one report. We have 2 names that are associated to maybe a person, and in a different report, we have maybe different names. And sometimes it becomes difficult to know which is the correct one and which is the incorrect one. So we are saying here, one of your goals as a database designer is to store information in one place and in the best possible place. Normalization is the process that is used to eliminate this kind of problems, that is redundancies and inconsistencies. The first normal form. A first normal form requires that no multi-valued attribute exists. No multi-valued attribute exists. To check for first normal form, validate that each attribute has a single value for each instance of the entity. One code, one name, one address exists for the school building, but not classroom. So for instance, we have this example here, the school building. School building here, we have the school, the code, we have name, we have address, and classroom as attributes. So what you are supposed to be asking yourself, how many values are you having here? So a school building can only have one code, it can only have maybe one name, it can only have one address, but you realize that there's a problem with classroom because it is possible that a school building has multiple classrooms or more than one classroom. So the classroom attribute will have multiple values. And this means that this does not conform to the rule of the first normal form. This entity is not in first normal form. What is the rule of the first normal form? It requires that no multi-valued attribute exists. And from this, we are saying that it's possible that a school building has more than one classroom. So you can see here, it has one code, it has one name, it has one address, but not one class. So how do we resolve this? So you can see another entity has been created, classroom. And then there's now a relationship that has been created between the original entity, that is school building, and this entity, classroom. Classroom is now its own entity, and all attributes have one value per instance. So both entities are in the first normal form. So what we have done, we have actually created another entity here, classroom, and we have attributes to describe a classroom. So we have the classroom number, which would uniquely distinguish the different classrooms in the school. We have the floor, and then we have the size of the classroom. These are attributes to describe a classroom. And then here we remain with the school building code, the name, and the address. Now we create a relationship here such that we are saying a school building is the location of one or more classrooms, but a classroom can only be located in one and only one building. So we have created a one-to-many relationship here to resolve the issue that was here, because from the initial entity, this had not conformed to the requirements or to the rule of the first normal form. So this is just an explanation of what I was trying to say. Since many classrooms exist in a school building, classroom is multi-valued, and it violates the rule of the first normal form. So if an attribute is multi-valued, you create an additional entity and relate it to the original entity with a one-to-many relationship. So we are saying this one violates the rule of the first normal form. And what are they saying? To resolve that, you create an additional entity. We have created this classroom and relate it to the original entity with a one-to-many relationship. One-to-many relationship. So basically, that is how we have resolved that. So examine the entities. Are there any multi-valued attributes? So we can check them. Sorry. We can check the first one. We have the entity student. And this entity student has a number as one of the attributes, first name, last name, and subject. So the question you should be asking yourself to check whether it conforms to the rule of the first normal form or not. How many student numbers can a student have? You realize it's only one, so that's okay. How many first names can a student have? One, that's okay. How many last names can a student have? One, that's okay. How many subjects can a student take? You realize that a student can take more subjects. So this does not conform to the rule of the first normal form. And what does it require us to do? We create another entity called subject, and then we will now have a one-to-many relationship between student and subject. So you can check on this. This is a small task. In a shopping mall, as our entity, we have ID, name, address, store name, and store floor. Can you examine this if it conforms to the rule of the first normal form? Do we have any multi-valued attribute? If not, how are we going to resolve that? Take some time, check on this before you look at the results. Same case here. We have these two entities, team, where we have the team ID, team name, and player. Do we have any attribute here that is multi-valued? Definitely. A team has more players. We're expecting more values here. So this does not conform. We expect to create another entity, player, and relate it to team. When we look at the league, we have the number and name. This conforms. This looks okay. On the shopping mall, you realize that a shopping mall can have more than one store name and store floor. So this does not conform. We expect another entity called store. So from that, if you did it right, you can see. So when all the attributes in an entity are single valued, that entity is said to be in the first normal form. So to resolve for the first one, we say student and subject, this does not conform. You can see an entity subject has been created. Subject has been removed from the initial student. We have created subject, and then you can see we are now creating a one-to-many, such that a student may take one or more subject, and a subject can be taken by one student. So here we have another entity store that has been created, and you can see the store name and store floor. These are now attributes beneath store, and then we have created a one-to-many relationship. Here you can see Claire is multi-valued. We have created another entity and then created a one-to-many relationship. So these are the solutions to those tasks. You can always review, pause the videos, check, and then if there are any questions, you can always post them in the LMS. But basically, that is how we look at first normal form. You check the entities, look at the attributes. Do we have any multi-valued attributes? If they exist, that means it does not conform to the rule of the first normal form, and this is how we actually resolve them. And that brings us to an end. So here we have looked at the normalization. Basically, we are saying enables us to store information in one place and in the best possible place, and basically helps us avoid redundancy and inconsistencies in our databases. And this is basically the summary of what we have learned. Purpose of normalization, the rule of the first normal form, to determine if an entity conforms to the rule of the first normal form, and then convert an entity to first normal form if needed. That brings us to an end. Thank you very much.